You're listening to the DeCesare Group Podcast. Welcome back. I'm your host, Jim DeCesare, and I'm glad you're here. Hey, do us a favor and subscribe to the DeCesare Group Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can also subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel and watch the episodes each week. The DeCesare Group Podcast is a companion to our newsletter, Soki Economic Development and Business News. You can subscribe at our website at thedecesaregroup.com. It'll hit your inbox every Monday morning, just like the podcast and the YouTube program. This week, our guest is Amanda Havard. She is the founder and CEO of Lunae Innovation Lab, a founding partner of the Innovation Engine Consultancy, and an advisor to multiple startups, including Wire Health, Zyme, and others. Most recently, she picked up the title of CEO at her newest venture, Origin Story Health. Havard's superpower is transforming fuzzy ideas into usable things. Lunae and its subsidiaries and partners are now based in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the WKU Innovation Campus. Inspired by moonlit ideas, aids both public and private sectors in fostering a collaborative, innovative environment. Here's my conversation with Amanda Havard. Amanda, thanks for being on the DeCesare Group Podcast. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's been a long time in the making here because I think we've been talking about this for several months and trying to get you on the program. And we're excited you're here because there's a lot of good things happening with you and your organization. So let's start at the top. What influenced you to establish Lunae Innovation Lab and Origin Story headquarters in Bowling Green, specifically at the Innovation Campus?
It's a great question. So I had a dear friend of mine who I'm sure half the world knows here, Sam Ford, who was a great collaborator of mine early in my career, like seemingly ages ago at this point. And he had kind of given me a call randomly and said, you should really come up here and see what we're doing in Bowling Green, Innovation Campus. It's cool. And a lot of startup stuff you like, and what was started as just a interesting conversation about, hey, maybe there could be some students who need mentors or young companies. Maybe you could help, Amanda, has somehow 2 years later turned into, I live here, we've established the companies here. But all that was largely because of how collaborative the environment here is. I mean, it is a unique place in how much everybody helps each other and how much further you can get when we help each other.
Yeah, and the Innovation Campus it used to be the Research and Development Center for WKU, and it's Buddy and Sam have kind of morphed it into what it is today, and it is a collaborative space with all these different entities out there. But so you've been there about a year now.
Yep.
And how long have you been in Bowling Green now?
I officially moved here at the end of August of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was traveling back and forth for a bit.
Yeah, I got you. And you relocated. Now, was Origin Story based in Dallas at one point?
Yeah. So we had originally founded as Araya, which was a telehealth mental health services company, and then expanded here to Kentucky. And then once we got here, and through just a kind of a host of different factors, not the least of which was realizing some real opportunities of what the community here in South Central Kentucky needed for mental health, we ended up spinning out Origin Story Health and our Kentucky business into its own entity.
Okay.
So the Texas group remains. I always say that one of my jobs is to work myself out of a job. So if I help, especially if I'm a hired gun co-founder, like I was with Araya, I give it my heart and my soul, but then it's operating and growing and doing its thing without me, which is a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to micromanage it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about Lunae Innovation Lab. And the impact that and Origin Story is having on the economy, and in terms of, are there a lot of jobs created with this, or is it more hybrid, or is it all, remote? And then what kind of talk about investments and what's attracting you to do that here?
Sure. So Lunae started as a behind-the-scenes entity. I have had the great opportunity in my career to found a couple of companies, but also help either advise or help companies get going. Sometimes that means I've held equity positions. Sometimes that means I've almost for the last 5 years at least, I've always had consulting kind of or advisory roles going in addition to my core work. And so Lunae was the innovation company, if you will, through which I ran all of that. And as we really started thinking about the possibilities, both of what we ended up doing with Origin Story Health, but what I could do and really and have ultimately started doing with companies out at the Innovation Campus is be able to help them either find a product market fit if they're already going, go from fuzzy idea to usable thing, real app in market or real process in place at a company, or even help them get fundraising put together, whether that's government non-dilutive or getting them hooked up to the right type of investment capital. And so when you think about from a job creation standpoint, it's a little bit all over the map, right? Mm-hmm. So I might work with a group who has an amazing technology, but to make it work, it actually takes a boots on the ground workforce using the tool. And maybe that's what I'm helping them develop, right? In which case it big time is. Sometimes if you're just building a tech product and you're working with a solo founder, maybe that's going to become its own entity. Maybe it's going to get bought up by in its early stages to mm-hmm. take the talented founder and the good technology into a bigger company. So a lot of different outcomes are possible, and it's a lot of fun to be able to help people kind of navigate what those things look like.
So right now with Lunae, can you tell us like how many different entities you're working with?
Wow, that's a good question, and it's funny to think about what entities means. But yeah, so
well, that's a sort of a broad term.
I know, that's what I'm thinking out loud with you. So, well, for one, I also, being here in the community, have been really blessed to be included in a lot of really interesting things. So first and foremost, let me be my plug for the newly launched Regional Tech Council.
Yeah, RTC.
RTC. I am the chair of the board, working with Rob Wilson, who
was on the podcast.
Oh yes, and he is amazing. I listened to that episode the other day, and Rob has been amazing. Such an example of a collaborator that, like, it, in a professional world, like we don't have a contract together, right? Though we do bounce ideas off each other, and we do have ideas for what we might do together. But
well, that's the whole idea behind the WKU
exactly
collaboration space, is to have that back and forth without really having, any kind of agreement. It's just sort of companies helping companies.
It's exactly right. And that's why I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting. So when I think about it, like I've been having interesting chats with, a very well established in his career, Jeremy Jacobs, people know from Iconic. He's got an interesting platform called Transmission. And while it looks like it has nothing to do with healthcare or my world at all, I think it could have some interesting applications to solve problems for some other clients I'm working with. Mm-hmm. So like that's an example of we wander down the hall to each other and chat about something. Same is true. We've got local and beloved John Hernage, who has Kentucky Thermal Institute. Been all quite literally around the world with him at this point, evaluating kind of how tech can have a role in all preventive maintenance, thermography, all kinds of different things that he works in.
Yeah, and John's kind of like a founding member out at the Innovation Campus because he's been around for a while.
Yeah, no, he and Jeremy both, right? And they come from a generation of the campus that predates the current version.
The incubator.
Yeah, exactly.
The small business incubator.
Yes. But so then I'm working with, I've through the Tech Council, we end up meeting quite a few folks, but also like my office is right there across from Buddy and Sam's. So I'm unofficially acting almost as a EIR, entrepreneur in residence. So our door, Megan and I's, is always open. Or if we're there, or people come knock on the window, we're like, come in. So we've got a lot of people who kind of walk by and just bounce some ideas off of. But we're working right now trying to figure out how Origin Story Health could be a behavioral health partner for several of the organizations here in town, because we're a unique market for how much Bowling Green is growing and all that we have here. I mean, your biggest healthcare presences, if you will, Graves Gilbert, Med Center Health, tons of others, have no behavioral health practice really, and they know they need one. And so there's great opportunities for potential collaboration there. And then I'm also the advisor right now to a group called Wire Health, that's a mental illness treatment that sells direct to employers as a benefit. And an advisor for a company called ADUH Scientific that has a proprietary screening tool that's emoji based, and it's verified, validated up against major well-established evidence-based screeners that we use in mental health. So what's fun for me is that seems like I'm all over the place, but funny enough, I'll go, oh, well, over here, this employer has this benefit with Wire, for example, and over here, there's this platform they could be using to connect people. Oh, and how would we connect them? We'd need a tool. Oh, over here, this thing, maybe they fit together. So when you talk about like what's going on at the Innovation Campus and why that collaboration matters, like that's such a good example, right? Because none of those companies ever would have met one another. And by just us, several of us being there on site, that gives us a chance to collaborate, as well as bring in our network from all over the world to go, you would never have found this random person, a random platform, but now I can connect this tool to you, and we've all brought value to all our companies.
So talk about your behavioral health program.
Sure.
Are you out recruiting psychiatrists and mental health providers and all of this?
Yes.
I bet that's fun.
It is, so actually even the inspiration for calling the spin out Origin Story Health is because I, very hands-on from Araya's inception, I interviewed almost every one of our providers we ever hired. Nearing my transition out, that got to be less true, but I did that not because I'm clinical, but because we were so oriented and we tried to be oriented to finding really passionate providers, right? And sometimes in the mental health field especially, we see so much burnout, and that's not a sign of weakness. That's not a sign of, lack of capability or even passion on behalf of a provider. But a lot of times it's a lack of the fit, the caseload, the environment that works for them, right? Mm-hmm. And so what would happen is, I wanted to feel those people, right? Because you could easily get somebody who would interview for you and be like, oh, they were low energy. I'm like, were they low energy, or are they tired and kind of downtrodden and at this place where they're like, look, this was my calling, and I feel like I don't even know if I can do it anymore. Because that person, we can get them in, we can get them thriving, and that's really what we had such a good chance to do at Araya. So in all those interviews, I would start with like, look, nobody just stumbled into the mental health field. I thought that sounds like an easy job, right? Yeah. So everybody has a why and an origin story. So I'd be like, how about we just start there? Like, what's your origin story? How'd you get here? And it just that open-ended, formed amazing relationships with our providers, got to really understand their capabilities. And so through that, as we go forward with Origin Story Health, we are going to do that all over again. So we are hiring. I'm really blessed to have Dr. Christian Schrader, who was our chief medical at Araya, come over as both our medical director and chief clinical. He is amazing. He and his family are moving up here, which is great.
Right.
And he's one of the leading addiction psychiatrists in the country, and has a really heavy emphasis on trauma, which is something we, again, with Origin Story, we are all the product of our lived experiences. And while so much of the behavioral health world's around management and, coping, trauma is something you can heal from. And so we're really looking to work with more of those trauma-informed clinicians who want to come be a part of that journey with us at Origin Story. But this time we're also fortunate enough to be able to hire some clinicians right when they're coming out of school. Western here is a great example of they have a master's level counseling and a master's level clinical social work program. They have a psychiatric nurse practitioner program. Mm-hmm. Those are all people that we need. We need to keep them here in the region. We need to put them to work here in the region, and they need supervision, which is a true technical term of something that they need to get their licenses. So part of those community partnerships we're working on here is so that we can get work for them, where they can get those hours that they need, the supervision that they need. So again, kind of like connecting these companies who wouldn't have met. Yeah. We're trying to be this innovative engine in between that helps connect maybe a health system or an addiction recovery group with these really talented graduates and get them into a place in their, plugged into their career in the right way.
So on the other end of this, who uses Origin Stories? I mean, is people all over the world, or all of the U.S., or just here in Kentucky?
Great question. So for the version that we're going through now, so current state and really near future state, it's Kentucky, because as long as we're working through clinical licensure and actual evidence-based therapies and modalities, those are all governed thanks to the 10th Amendment, state by state, right? Yeah. And so, and we're independently owned, right? I mean, Araya was seeded by its original founder, my co-founder. Origin Story, I have seeded and kind of bootstrapped the spin out. And so I say all that because it's not like we're capital from all over and going to go run into 50 states immediately. Our goal here is that the need here is big enough in Kentucky that if we can continue offering access to care, get it paid for either by employer benefits or by Medicaid or whatever we need to, and we can help connect people to the care they need and help them heal. Like, there's more than enough in Kentucky to go around. So that's where we're focused. But at the same time, some of those interesting partners like Wire, they're all over the country. So could very well be that you get the call that there's a group of first responders or something who wants to utilize our services. And then, of course, we're a business. We'll respond to that opportunity, and meet it. But yeah, that's where we are.
Well, you kind of answered a lot of my questions here. Talk about the local entrepreneurial ecosystem and the benefits it brings to the community. You've kind of hit on that. With Lunae, I mean, and you've talked about some of the entities that you're working with, or businesses or organizations or people. Is there any body you won't work with, or is it all tech based?
No, it's really open-ended right now. Like, I actually, we haven't really announced this, but we could, so I'll just go with this.
Hang on, breaking news right here.
I know. So I'm moving into a partnership with Sam Ford and some other amazing folks, including VJ. Oh my gosh, I'm going to say this terribly. Everybody knows VJ, but Kaminani, where we've already been working on projects together behind the scenes. Some like Sam's working closely with county on BG 2050.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on that project with them. We haven't been out there announcing that, right? But that's an example of, like, we've been on that. So Sam and VJ and I and some of the others are creating this joint venture we're calling at the moment Innovation Engine. In part because what we all share is we have some repeatable processes and methods and methodologies we've honed that in our respective fields really can help interesting innovation move forward. And so to that end, that really broadens the horizons, right? Because what I bring from tech and healthcare and in some ways, messaging, branding, languaging, business model side, Sam and VJ bring completely different and yet complementary skills. And certainly with VJ, he's the CEO of the Metals Innovation Initiative. He is a particularly astute both in the tech side, but certainly in manufacturing, but he's also just a brilliant business mind, right?
Right.
So, no, it's certainly not limited. And I mean, I don't think anybody would have thought that John Hardage and Kentucky Thermal and I were going to become, two peas in a pod. I didn't even know about all that, but it goes to show that when you really get the methods down for creating solid organizations, solid teams, solid business models, a lot of our methods are more agnostic than we would have realized.
Yeah. So talk about, and I know you've talked about Sam and Buddy and the whole gang out there, but talk about the partnership with the WKU Innovation Campus and how it's contributing, broadly to the region, not only to the region, really to the world, because there's a lot, I know for maybe 15, almost 20 years that campus has been open. There has been a lot of companies in there that people don't even know about, like Department of Defense company type stuff, top secret.
Yep.
But talk about the Innovation Campus and how that reach is so broad, even though it's the old mall,
right. For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's just being there on site, not every single day, but often, at least every week. There's a lot of just true cross-pollination.
Mm-hmm.
It is hey, I saw that person there, or, and you think about in a world where you want networking to happen based on, a belief in abundance and connectivity, rising tides, which is what I believe we all want here. There's no one you couldn't speak to there. Buddy's always passionate about saying, when you walk into the collaborative smart space over there, I'm not Amanda Havard, CEO of Lunae. I'm just Amanda, and I help with product, and I can brainstorm, and I can help you figure out if there's really a customer in that B2B2C model. Who is it? How would it work? And that is really interesting because you have AESC has a lot of their core team that's here, based there. You have
Logan Aluminum.
Logan, yep. You even have people you don't realize you have. So
the DeCesare Group.
The DeCesare Group, for sure. But we also have a lot of one-off employees who work for companies elsewhere. And because of the collaborative smart space, and including increasingly because of RTC, we're really finding a way to like bring people together and find their tribe. So like later today, we're hosting a peer group for RTC that is for product. Can be product, project management, and other things. And you've got two people who are based at the Innovation Campus, are the peer leaders. One works for Easy, right? And so homegrown. And then the other works for Walmart is a really talented product manager. And, he's really interesting because it's almost like what's starting to happen at the Innovation Campus is making people look around and go, well, wait a minute. I mean, maybe I love my job, but I really would love being a part of one of these teams that I'm seeing form, right?
Yeah.
So I think what you're starting to do, and I'm starting to see, is, okay, we want to work on this project. It doesn't, back in the day, it would have been, I want to launch a business. I'm going to figure out if I need to do fundraising. What's the model? Get a pitch deck, do the thing. Or, in certain small businesses, you got an opportunity, first customer. Okay, here we go. Now it's like, that is an interesting problem. I bet we could come up with a solution. I mean, I can't run it, but I bet we could figure it out.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you like literally are walking through the smart space or an RTC meeting and you're like, okay, so if I put these 6 people together, yeah, I bet this could become a company and it actually has an impact. And that's really interesting for me because it's very different than earlier startup career, not just for me, but for most of us. I always kind of say that and remind everybody that the era I come from was like I founded my first company the year that Uber started. So when you think of the unicorns and you think of just the chaos and craze and high valuations and investment dollars and focus on growth, not profit, and all these different things and cutthroat cultures, that's what I grew up in, and it's not what I wanted. And I don't think it's sustainable. And I think there's no reason that we need to create that type of environment to have innovative entities or projects. And so being here is so nice to be like, all right, let's just kind of help each other, connect some dots. Sure, I could advise on it. Or, oh, we should bring so-and-so in. Get him over here. He'll help.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing that is going to breed not just jobs, not just interesting, careers, higher paying careers here in Bowling Green, but really are going to be, we're creating a breeding ground. And I know that the WKU Innovation Campus, the university, of course, itself, certainly the Chamber of Commerce. I know you had Ron on that conversation. Yeah. Ron is amazing and probably doesn't get enough credit for how open-minded and visionary he's being on what a chamber really could do. And because of that, it's so fun to work with him and with a lot of folks around, certainly, Judge Gorman, trying to think through, like, when we do this, quote unquote, this, like as we work through the Innovation Campus, as we think about what a collaborative, caring, creative community really looks like, but that is driven by trying to grow a private sector and grow its economy, we might very well be making a model that doesn't exist, that's followable, right?
Yeah.
That really, really could bring some interesting opportunity and some learnings and that we'd be happy to share, across the country. And so there are a lot of us over there that are doing the work every day, but with an eye on the future of, we always say, will future us thank us? Like, future us will thank us if we document this. Future us will thank us if we keep track of what went well, what didn't, where we had missteps, so that we might actually teach this process or share the story at some point. So there's a lot of big stuff going on over there and really around this community.
And you talked about the BG 2050 initiative. Mm-hmm. I talked with Mayor Alcott a few nights ago, and I guess the census totals the projections that we initially had are going to be a little bit larger than we anticipated for Bowling Green and Warren County and South Central Kentucky. And I know that's part of that initiative that they're working on. But the other thing I wanted to throw out there is you work with a lot of different individuals, and I'm going to guess that some of these individuals are highly intelligent, but maybe not very social. Mm-hmm. And so how do you get over that hurdle with someone that's maybe not used to getting out and pitching their product or talking with people? Are you working with them in that aspect as well? And as I should mention, a couple episodes ago, Greg Coker was on to talk about the Kentucky Center for Leadership, which just recently relocated to the Innovation Campus. So you have that resource there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg is such a good example. We had some of the leadership from, including Mike Diarmo from Graves Gilbert, was at the Innovation Campus the other day chatting through some origin story possibilities. And really, because he was like, hey, we'll come to you. We want to see this we want to see this place.
Yeah.
And we were walking down the hall and ran into Greg and some of his team. And I was like, see, this is what I mean when I say what just happens here. Like, I didn't plan any of this. I'm not name dropping. It's just like, no, look, we were all there. Isn't that funny? And then, it's that connectivity is so nice. But yeah, great question on the social skills part. I'm very lucky that I came from an education that put a big emphasis on speaking, public speaking, so that even if I personally and socially can get very awkward, put me on a podcast and I'm happy to sit here and chat all day.
Yeah.
At a podium, same thing.
I think we all have our moments where we're fish out of water.
Yes. For sure. But it can be really daunting, especially when you do take off the armor and the title and just are like, yep, I'm just a person in a room and I don't know people, right? And some people are such gifted natural networkers in those rooms, and others of us are naturally wallflowers, and that includes me. I'm lucky.
Yeah, me too.
I say that all day long. I mean, I say it and people are like, sure, but I'm very introverted by nature. I'm very introspective by nature. And then I could sit here and have a chat so that we can communicate, but that was a learned skill. So sometimes I'm coaching them on how you have to find what that superpower of yours is, and really lean into it. And then, it's old school strengths finder here, capitalize on your strengths, manage around your weaknesses, right? And putting together a team who has very different skills and different complementary skills can be really, really key. We actually have some tools we've developed at Lunae that we use in our consulting work. If you actually come to my office, you will see this on the wall, and you might be asked to participate in this, which is a matrix of what we call skills versus superpowers. But it really has to do with giving everybody a visual on, who likes working on fuzzy ideas that aren't even real versus people who are going to be really, really stressed out by that. And they're, that ticks up their anxiety. They want to know how to do it right, check the box, and they're good. Right. And then the same for people who are super social and they get all their energy from connecting to people versus look, put me in a room, heads down in code or in actuarial data and let me be. Right. And then we do that, we can look at a team and say, oh, okay, this makes sense. This part of the work or this opportunity, we'll give to this person. But if you're solo, it even mapping kind of the jobs you have to play, right? So to speak, as a founder, okay, I'm not so great with the selling because it's talking, but I'm very good at the code. Then, that helps who you need to bring in to maybe help you. Or the areas like with Center for Leadership and others that you need to work on those skills. Not everybody's meant to be a founder. You can found a company and not be the persona of a founder, right, and go out and talk about it. And I do counsel some founders and certainly founding teams, who wants to be that face, right? Not because, we need egomaniacal faces to companies, but who's going to tell the story, and make it so that you have the right messaging, the right languaging, we say, and the category language, so that people can really understand what you do, why you do it, what the impact is, and not just about your business or about your app, right? And so that's definitely part of the process.
I think with anybody, regardless of whether they're an introvert or an extrovert, if you hit their passion buttons, they're going to go nuts on you.
Exactly. Which is where it's okay, you're shy, but there's that thing you can't stop talking about.
Yeah.
Then let's get that to the front of the pitch.
That's right.
But then also let's structure that in a way that's repeatable and that people understand, right?
Yes.
And it's digestible.
The elevator pitch.
Yes, the elevator pitch, which I think everybody forgets is so named because it's, can you tell it if you're only riding on an elevator together?
Right.
That's not 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. So. You break it down into 7 seconds, 7 minutes, or 70 minutes, however, but you've got to have that pitch there. All right, let's talk about long-term goals for Lunae and origin story and all the other things that you're working on. What's the long-term plan?
It's a great question. As much as I have my hands in things, you'd think I'm one of these, here's my 5-year plan, here's my 10-year plan. And I've learned that every plan I have, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a North Star and you can have some goals. Ever since we got into the mental health field, you can't spend all day telling people how to use their tools and take care of themselves.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
So when I don't know when you graduated college, but when you finished college, did you plan to go into the mental health field?
No.
All right. So
not even close. Not healthcare, not tech. I mean, I have an undergraduate degree in early childhood education and child development.
There you go.
And a graduate degree in curriculum and instructional leadership and cognitive development. not what you think you would need to get here. But then when you start hearing me talk about Lunae as a group that employs human-centered design, and all the emphasis you just heard me say about making sure your message is accessible and reaching people, gee, that's a lot like teaching, and that's a lot about knowing people. So it's an example of whatever you study doesn't have to be one-to-one with the career. You do need to figure out how to leverage the things you learn, and perhaps even intentionally go after certain things to learn so that you can piece them together into the type of career you want.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to get off track, but I did want to throw that out there because I think everybody has that. There's the book Fluke that talks about all you have to do is turn left instead of right, and it could change the trajectory of your life.
Yep.
So future goals,
yes.
long-term plans.
I think I'm really enjoying. I always love the 0 to 1 of a startup, and so I think this possibility of being an early stage partner, whether that means truly hired gun co-founder, actual in it with you, co-founder, bootstrapping, raising, whatever it is, or investor increasingly, I think is, where I'm hopefully headed, is that I would be able to get in on the ground floor truly. And I actually, now that I hear that cliche, really that I would get in on the architectural design, right, of the thing that's going to get built.
You want to be an early adapter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
or an innovator.
Yeah. The idea is, like I say, when somebody says, hey, I have an idea, the hard part is going from idea to thing, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it is also very hard to grow and scale a thing, right? But so many ideas never become more than ideas because we don't have a process to put them through. And then even so many ideas that become products or offerings don't become businesses because we don't validate and find that product market fit. I love doing that, right? Yeah. And I'm learning that some of it is, like anything, the more you practice it, the more exposure you have, the faster you get at it. And so, people, Rob and I have talked around, would we teach? Would we turn these into courses? Is it that we want something that is consumable for have an idea? Here's the step-by-step to find out if you maybe have a business or not. Yeah. Right. And some of those tools are strangely easy, once you know how to use them. Right. And I certainly haven't invented, all of this from scratch. I'm leveraging all kinds of great resources and books and tools, lean startup canvases, all kinds of, user journey design and journey mapping. I'm doing all these things that I didn't invent, right? And plugging in some tools we did. And as we do that, I'm just interested in can we solve more real world problems by helping those ideas become things? One thing I said a lot in my early career, and it's getting even more important now, is, that my generation of startup founder was told, find a problem in your own life and solve it. That's how you know you have a business. And I was like, okay, in the grand scheme of things, I don't have a lot of problems. A lot of things I might choose to spend money on, a lot of things that might make my life easier. Yeah. But I'm very blessed, very privileged. Maybe we should put this, my brain power and other brain power toward solving the bigger issues, which is how you find me in healthcare, how you find me in the mental health space, right? And I think that if we can bring this innovation mindset to some of those sectors, and if I can be, lucky enough to help some folks do that and bring some good ideas to life, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So if we could just get politicians to come into the innovation campus and walk around, we could probably solve a lot of problems.
Communication and collaboration solve a lot of things.
Exactly. and that's right. Collaboration and finding that consensus, yep. With certain issues, but it's not about compromise. It's about collaboration and consensus. Yep. is the way I look at it. But did I not ask you anything I should have asked, or is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners and viewers that I didn't go over? Because we've covered a lot of ground, and you're like a serial entrepreneur.
I am, which is not something I never say that because I feel like it brings something strange to mind, but it's true. No, I don't know. I think there's always to be on the lookout for, one thing that is kind of cool for a lot of us around here, and for me, it's been freeing, is this idea of you can work on multiple things, you know? Yeah. And I even wonder if, there was a huge incidence of mental illness in founders over the last 15 years, in part because we were supposed to live and die and find our identity in the projects we were working on. Right. I don't think that's healthy. And as much as we know that, we still glorify the blood, sweat, and tears of founding something. And I think if we get to where we can bring our best selves and our balanced selves and our, mentally healthy, therefore self-reflective and, pausing and thinking about our thoughts, brains, to the work, any work. We're all going to be in a better place.
Yeah.
I will say so, and that would be also look out for some weird, unexpected projects of mine that are the fun stuff. For example, part of Origin Story, we have plans for some murals and some merch even, where we have taken, all of these huge complex ideas in the mental health space and boiled them down into little like things you can take with you. So, think about your thoughts, or classic reframe in CBT is what else could be true, right? Like, hold on, because you get down that thread, you're like, this is going to happen and this has got to be, and they must be thinking this about me. And you're like, whoa, what else could be true, right? Just these little tools that while we think of them as the mental health world and part of that, they're really just help you be a growth-minded, empathetic, like proactive, clear-minded human, right? Mm-hmm. And so we've been playing around with some great collaborators. Good friend out of Nashville, Leanne MZ, who's an artist. We had April English, who was a WKU grad, who is now up in Louisville. She's an artist. And then just some other of our own designs and things. Don't be surprised if you see me sporting them on T-shirts under blazers or, tote bags, that kind of thing. But just for the getting it out there in the world, right? Yeah. Like if we live in a world where those little tools become so second nature that, and seeing them, asking the "will future you thank you" question, that's going to be how we curb some of the crisis we have in mental health. It's starting to think of those upstream effects and upstream tools, that keep you from getting to crisis. So we're just ever increasingly thinking of fun ways and interesting ways to get those types of messages and resources out to people. So my love of art, fashion, design, and fun are about to come together in doing that with Origin Story as
that's awesome.
A side project. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put a link to your website in
Perfect.
our show notes, and if there's anybody that has a great idea, you can call Amanda.
Absolutely, that's the way.
And she'll connect you.
I can see Megan Knoll, who is we say chief of staff, but at this point she's the co-founder of Lunae because she's been with me since before Lunae existed. She's also my friend from 7th grade. She's sitting in the room. She just motioned at me and said, "Call me," because we know that Amanda's really bad at calling people back.
Yeah.
But Megan will get with anyone.
And what's her title on her email? I saw that the doer of all things or something like that.
Chief figure outer and doer of all things.
Yeah, chief figure outer. I always call myself the CFO, chief facilitating officer.
Facilitating officer. That's good.
Yeah, that
could be Meg. That definitely could be Meg.
So
anyhow, it takes all kinds. Right?
It does, and the DeCesare Group was founded during COVID, and we're not just pigeonholed into one thing. We do a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of, I think you're seeing more and more businesses do that. They're sort of spreading themselves out a little bit because, what you have over here might not be there tomorrow.
Right.
It might not be a need. So you better have something over here to fill the gap.
Yeah. We could do a whole different episode, and maybe we should, on that category design concept I was talking about where, you find your super consumer in your niche. It may not be that you just need to grow that niche. It's that there might be 8 other niches that same type of consumer is into. So maybe that's what you offer. And that's a lot of what we're thinking about right now. So there could be some cool conversations on that topic,
We'll get you back and we'll do that, okay?
That'd be great.
Amanda Havard, thanks for being on the DeCesare Group Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Amanda Havard, CEO of Lunae Innovation Lab. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Lots of good stuff. Hey, if you like what you hear, please share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review and share your feedback with us. You can also follow the DeCesare Group across all of our social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. The DeCesare Group Podcast is produced by the DeCesare Group, a public relations and consulting firm based in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Our engineer with super mad skills is Justin DeCesare, with content contributions from Brooke Mattingly and Amy DeCesare. I'm Jim DeCesare, and join us again next time for the DeCesare Group Podcast.